The Bengals are signing both Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins to massive 4-year contracts, and that's phenomenal news. But in this video, I'll explain why one of these contracts in particular is so important for the future of the Bengals. Hi again, Bengals fans. John Sheeran of A to Z Sports Cincinnati here, and the Bengals once again did it at night. A couple of years ago, Orlando Brown Jr. signed the biggest external free agent contract in Bengals history at 10:30 at night in March. A few months later, Joe Burrow agreed to terms on the largest contract in NFL history during Thursday Night Football to begin that season. And now, Sunday night, March 16th, the Bengals agreed to terms with both Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins on two separate 4-year contracts. Ja'Marr Chase is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL and is guaranteed more money than Justin Jefferson, his old college partner. And while everyone who thought about this for longer than 5 seconds knew that the Bengals were eventually going to pay Ja'Marr Chase, it is good that they did not wait around any longer than they actually had to after Myles Garrett reached the $40 million per year mark. Chase is on track to being the most accomplished, most talented, best overall receiver in this long history of great receivers in Cincinnati football. He was always going to be someone that they pay, that they bend to, that they give out guaranteed money to. He was always going to break precedent. He was always going to be an exception to the rule. Ja'Marr Chase is just that good, and the Bengals were always going to get this done. However, the same could not be said about T. Higgins, and there are multiple reasons as to why this was the case. For starters, this does not happen if T. Higgins doesn't change his agent last season, because the Bengals tried and failed on at least 2 separate occasions to reach a long-term deal with Higgins when he was previously represented by David Mulugheta. When the Bengals placed the franchise tag on him the first time in 2024, everyone believed that that bridge had been burned, that there was no hope in getting Higgins signed long-term so long as Mulugheta was representing him and trying to push for these guarantees that the Bengals just never go for a player like Higgins. And we'll get to that part in a second. But the Bengals were very close last year in extending Chase when he was being represented by Rocky Arsenault. Now, Higgins could have kept Mulugheta. He would have eventually hit free agency, and Mulugheta has always been known to getting his clients the best possible deals with the most guaranteed money. He would have been perfectly fine getting the deal that he wanted from some other team, but that's not what he wanted to do. He wanted to get a deal done here in Cincinnati. So he made the conscious decision of swapping Mulugheta for Arsenault to team up with Ja'Marr Chase's representation to get both of these deals done. Oftentimes, you see players switch agents for the sake of maximizing their potential earnings. In this case, Higgins was potentially sacrificing his guarantees in this contract, but he did it, again, to stay with the Bengals and Chase. So that was step number 1. Hope had been restored that the Bengals could actually get both Chase and Higgins done and keep their star quarterback Joe Burrow happy. But there was still an obstacle here, because just because Higgins had changed his agent didn't mean that he was willing to sacrifice giving up guaranteed money in the second year of his contract. And for a player like Higgins, who's not exactly a perennial Pro Bowl or All-Pro talent or an elite player like a Ja'Marr Chase or a Joe Burrow who managed to get those guarantees and we're always going to get those guarantees, Higgins wasn't exactly that type of player, and those types of players in Bengals history have never been able to get future guarantees beyond just the first year. And this was always going to be the most compelling part of this story if it actually happened, and it turns out it did. Because in Higgins' 4-year, $115 million contract that can actually go up even further with incentives, that second year is guaranteed. Not only did Higgins get what he wanted with a new agent, but this could also be a sign that the Bengals are now willing to offer future guarantees to players like Higgins who are just, again, below that truly elite status. I mean, just think how many players in the last few years have left the Bengals because they were able to get guaranteed money from other teams. Jesse Bates here is the obvious answer, and newsflash, David Mulugheta was his agent too. But DJ Reader, Kevin Zeitler, Marvin Jones, the list goes on and on for players who weren't able to get the Bengals to bend for them. T. Higgins was able to do that himself. There's certainly a debate about whether or not the Bengals should have actually done this. Should they have paid so much money, so much capital and resources going to 2 receivers when they have a truly elite quarterback in Burrow? And I see that argument. I truly do. But take it from me, who's watched this team fumble around with their best players for so many years, squabbling over guarantees that 30 other franchises offer without a second thought. This is a significant moment in the history of the Bengals franchise, particularly with how they do business, with how they give out their own money. Cherish it, relish it, use it as a benchmark for what should be the standard to come. I truly have no idea if the Bengals are going to be good for the next 4 years, but I know they're going to be worth watching.